How's it going, everyone? So today we have this mower that we need to buy some parts for, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked, where do I get my parts from? I'm going to go over two things. One, how to find the parts you need, and two, where I get them from. So sit down, relax. I'm going to go over how to locate and buy the correct parts and where I buy them. So have a good day, and let's get started. First things first, we have to know what exactly we're looking for. Right now we are looking for a bearing inside of that clutch. So already we know that the motor's fine, we don't have to worry about anything like that. So if we are running into a situation where there's a motor issue, sometimes it's easier just to look up the motor itself instead of the machine. Because sometimes when you look up the machine will only have you get to the engine part of it and it'll just say GCV 160 or whatever, and that will be the end of it. So that's not too helpful. Somewhere on the machine, it's usually in the rear, Hondas, or I'll show you, there's a model number, and sometimes it's important as well, you need a serial number. Sometimes they do change. So on a Honda, there is a marker right there. And for instance, this says HRX 217 K5 HYAA and a bunch of serial numbers. So that is going to be the easiest way. You type that into Google and you're going to come up with a couple options. Now when you type that into Google, you need to type in parts diagram, and then we'll continue from there. Now, sometimes that is worn off. So when that's worn off, you're kind of in the guessing game. Some parts, like on a steel, for instance, like right here, we have a housing. There's little numbers, you can't tell because it's super dirty, but there might be a part number already on it. If you're lucky enough to have that happen, then just use that part number and you don't have to worry about it. Sometimes it says it's superseded or it's no longer available. Just know that's normal. Just get the one they recommend. There's a reason why that number changed. Maybe part was defective. Who knows? There's a variety of different reasons. So if you don't have that, another thing you can do is you can potentially just type in Honda HRX 217 or whatever yours is, Toro Recycler. Now, the year is going to be different because they made, especially for Toro, for instance, they made recyclers for a long time. So you need to look and type in generally a year. If you bought it new, type in there you bought it. Generally, you're probably going to be within the okay time frame, and then you find the correct one, and you go from there. So once you type that in, what do we do next? You have to forgive me, but right now we're looking at my phone. We're on Jack Small Engines. I typed in Google, that was the first one that came up. I actually really like this site. So anyway, you see a couple options here. We are going to want to look for the clutch. It might be called the rotary blade. And then down here we have all of the items. And we need to find the right one. Right now, for instance, I need number 22 because that's the bearing. If you don't know how to figure that one out, then, well, actually, no, we need to do something. We need item number 23. Sometimes you can't buy particular things and you have to buy a whole kit. That usually happens with steel stuff. That happens with engine components sometimes, stuff like that. So once you have figured out what you need, and if you don't know, then basically you just kind of look at the part and you kind of look and see where you found it. And the part that I'm looking for is that one right there, and then there's a little bearing. You can click on it and it even says bearing. So they do give you aftermarket. There's a part number right there, aftermarket, stuff like that. Find the one that you want. I would usually recommend getting the Honda one. So now that we have the part number, what do we do? That's the hard one. So you can literally just buy the bearing off the website that we were just using. It's a very good way to support them. They do very good work. I would recommend doing that because it's just a good idea. I mean, you are paying somebody for their website. They did a lot of the work. They're putting it up and stuff like that. You don't need to do it, however. What you can do is you can look up the part number once you get it. You can go to Amazon, you can go to eBay, you can go to different websites, see if you can find it cheaper. Just realize that don't just look at the price, look at the price including the shipping. Because if you just look at the price, sometimes more likely than not, you're going to be finding a website that says, like this one for instance said 24, 25 bucks. The shipping maybe $5. And then you go to another one, maybe it says it's $23. Oh, okay, well that's a savings of $1 or $2. I'll get it from that website. But then the shipping is $2 or $3 more. So beware of that. Unless it has free shipping, then that's awesome. But just know you kind of want to be mindful of that. So now that you have that, you found out where you want to ship it from, where you want to buy it from. That's it. I usually get stuff from Jack Small Engines, eReplacementParts.com. There's another website, but I don't really use it all that much. Amazon is definitely one of them. Sometimes when you get it through Amazon, you even are getting it from that website, except the price is going to be different, but they're including the shipping in the total you see. So, it's just one of those weird quirks about it. So that's how I end up finding my parts. Parts diagrams are very valuable for situations like this, and you definitely need to be mindful of what you're purchasing. If, for instance, I didn't notice there's a second bearing, maybe I should be ordering 2. Before you get done ordering, especially if you order from the website I showed you, you should definitely be looking for other stuff you should be looking for or ordering. Maybe the bearing made the oil seal in the motor go bad, or maybe the cable is starting to go bad, or what caused that. I mean, right now I'm thinking it's just, a worn out bearing. I don't see anything additional, but be on the lookout for something else, because you don't want to run into a situation of you get the bearing, they're installing it, and then all of a sudden you notice that there is a bunch of oil leaking, and if you just had taken one more part off, you would have seen it. Don't do that. Don't be that person. So, we now have the parts. We know that we're going to be looking through the parts diagram. We know how to find the parts. If for any reason you're having a really, really, really hard time, know that some machines, let's say you're working on the Cub Cadet, if you see that it is kind of a generic part, like, for instance, I just had to order a wiring harness for a Troy-Bilt. The Troy-Bilt one was completely out of stock. However, the MTD equivalent, which makes Troy-Bilt, the exact same wiring harness, except now it just says MTD behind it, even has the same part number minus like a one letter, was exactly what I needed. And not only that, it was cheaper too, because it's kind of like a generic version of it. It's not branded. Be aware that can also happen. So if you're having a really hard time finding, see if you can find one that's similar to it and go from there. Ideally, that is the last thing you would want to do. But if you really, really need something, you can't find it, it's not on eBay, you can't locate it online anywhere, it might be a good runabout way of doing it. And sometimes it's even quicker and cheaper if you do it that way, because, for instance, on an EBZ 8500, it's a big blower that has like a handle on the side that controls the throttle as well as the kill. If you get the Red Max version of it, it is for whatever reason like $5-6 more expensive. If you get the Husqvarna, however you want to say it, version of it, it's cheaper, and a lot of times it actually gets over here a lot quicker, and shipping is usually free. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. And guess what? It's literally the exact same part. Shares the same part number. I'm pretty sure that just in 2 different sections in the shelf, and for whatever reason on the left side of the shelf is just more expensive than the right side of the shelf. Who knew? So be on the lookout for that. If you don't know if there is anything like that, type in that model, or excuse me, that part number in Google, and a lot of times you can read forums, and forums there will be people giving equivalent parts or suggestions of what parts to use instead. So that's how I find my parts. So if you like what you see, definitely keep watching, subscribe, follow me on Instagram as Ballinger101. If this helped you out, put a thumbs up, because it definitely helps me out, and I will catch you on the next video. You have a good rest of your night.